All right, getting after it again. Much better week this week. I'm just gonna roll. I'm gonna roll into my short podcast here. I'm gonna start with a recap, then I'm gonna hit my picks for week 11. But week 10, much better week than last time. I missed on like basically all my bets in week 9. Definitely switched strategy a little bit, trying to be a bit more conservative now, and it sort of paid off. I mean, I was doing pretty well through the games, and then ended up settling at even. But I'll get to that. So, just these are not so much games that I'm not so much going off my picks. Just kind of games I wanted to talk about. Texans Browns. This is a game that didn't quite go my way and should have. Um, I don't know, what can I say? I shared it on my Twitter, but if you didn't catch the end of this game, the Browns, so it finished up, Browns were minus 3-point favorites, finished up Texans 7, Browns 10. And Nick Chubb was on a breakaway touchdown in the fourth quarter when they were just trying to burn clock. And I think there was about a minute left, and no one anywhere close to him. He chose to run out of bounds so that they can kneel the clock away instead of just scoring an easy touchdown that would have covered the spread. And I'm still kind of mad at him. I get it, I guess. Like obviously to win the game, you should just kill the clock. Not worry about it. It's good situational awareness by him, but he's got to have like contract incentives for that touchdown, right? Like if you score up the touchdown, sure. What I would have done if I were him is I would have stopped, because the Texans players, they've given up. They're in a lost season. There was nowhere anywhere near him. No one was actually pursuing him because they knew he was gonna. I would have just stopped and turned around and waited for a Texan to get anywhere close to him, and then I just would have backed up over the goal line. Take your touchdown, kill a little clock. The Texans are not going to run down. They've scored 7 points all game. They're not going to drive downfield and score, and it would be a two-score game because you were already up by 3. So it'd be a two-score game. Well, you got nothing to worry about. Come on, Nick Chubb. Get your touchdown, get your roster incentives, make fantasy players happy, and cover the spread. Piece of shit. Another game. I suppose, you win some, you lose some. Then another game was Bills Cardinals, and I mean, first off, I gotta say the Bills are kind of back. They fell off hard for a minute there. They like struggled in a game against the Jets. I think they got blew out once. I'd have to look it up, but I'm not gonna waste your time. The Bills definitely, Josh Allen, he had like a great like first 4 games, and then like definitely fell off, and now it's kind of looking like the Bills last 2 weeks. I think they crushed the Seahawks last week. Now this week in a very competitive game against a decent Cardinals team. So the Bills are back. I mean, their team, I think they just had some key defensive injuries, and maybe they got that figured out offensively. It seems like they're clicking a little bit better now. Josh Allen, his play has kind of came up to more closer to what we expect. So I'm feeling more comfortable with the Bills now. They're on bye, so that's a good sign. They can try to get healthy and kind of come out of it. Feeling a lot more comfortable with them than I was through a stretch there. But ultimately, I had taken the Cards in this one, if you watched my video. And the Cardinals were minus 1.5-point favorites. Well, I'm sure you've all seen it. The Deandre Hopkins touchdown. I was watching the end of that game, and when that ball went into the pile of 4 guys, I immediately just shot my hands up. It was like, even though it was a zoomed out view, it was just like plain as day that DeAndre Hopkins was coming down with that ball. Really cool ending to the game. Cardinals cover, save my ass. So that was very nice. And as a Vikings fan, it shut Stephon Diggs up a little bit. He was kind of celebrating on his touchdown, thought he had won the game. No bueno. And an interesting take I heard, I think I was watching like some of the clip from like Pat McAfee or whatever, and they talked about how on some of those Hail Mary plays, you'll often see like, Calvin Johnson in the back of the end zone, or Gronk in the back of the end zone, or Jimmy Graham, like whoever your best kind of high point guy is in those packages, because he can just get up in there and make it happen. And instead, it seemed like the Bills just had their normal defensive personnel. A couple corners, or a safety. 3 guys all around him, but all guys that looked like they were like 6 foot. And then you got DeAndre Hopkins, they're trying to defend. So, but then I was like thinking about it. It's like, well, if you're the Bills, who would you put there? And I don't know the Bills personnel all that well, but I mean, I don't think Diggs would be a great person for that role. He's pretty slight frame, not exactly a box out wide receiver. Cole Beasley ain't gonna do it for you. And John Brown isn't going to do it for you. So maybe they just don't really have like a big bodied kind of guy like that. I don't know who their tight ends. I vaguely know Croft. I think they got. Maybe they didn't feel they were great for that role. Maybe they're more likely to get like a penalty than come through for you. But I don't know. It's just kind of interesting how there's like kind of a personnel thing there that kind of made that play possible. Just kind of a little thing that I think came up that I thought was interesting. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you did. Eagles, Giants. I don't know why. Why am I talking about this game? I think the main reason I'm talking about this game is I think it's easy to kind of get stuck on the Eagles narrative, just like, oh man, the Eagles are trash, NFC East is trash. But quietly, the Giants have actually played pretty decent lately. Like, I think that's the kind of, I don't know, maybe if you're in New York or whatever, people are talking about it, but I think quietly, like from my perspective, from someone living in the Midwest and try not to pay attention to the Giants so much, I think they're pretty decent. I think Joe Judge is a decent coach, and he's made it. They're as bad of a team as they are. They're not a team that's easy to beat or easy to blow out. When they lose, they've been losing very close. Other than week 1, they got rocked by the Steelers. They got blown out early, like in week 3, I think, by a 49ers team that is totally different now, obviously. That was the game when all the 49ers defensive players started getting hurt. And then there was a Rams game that I think the Rams were like double-digit favorites, and the Giants ended up covering, and they only lost by 8 points. In all their other games, they're either winning or they're losing within a score. So I think they might be on bye. I think they're on bye this week, but quietly, I think I got to start taking the Giants, plus the points in a couple of these spreads, because I just think kind of in all phases, Joe Judge is putting a decent team together, or doing not a decent team, but he's doing his best with the PC he's got, and they've been a hard team to blow out, and they've actually won a few games here. So I'll have to keep an eye on that going forward. Eagles, I don't know, can't trust them. I thought they were in the last 2 games. They kind of let me down. I wasn't betting on this week, but I thought getting like Miles Sanders back and some of the pass-catching weapons like Dallas Goedert and Jalen Reagor back, and maybe give Wentz a little bit more help, but hasn't happened that way. A few more games. Bengal Steelers. Man, I was surprised by this game. I was getting kind of scared of the Steelers just because if you've watched their games, Big Ben, he's played well, but he doesn't have the zip. He doesn't have that big arm that we're used to seeing from Big Ben. Been a lot of short passes. I mean, you can kind of see it in this game. I mean, I know that Deontay Johnson had like 13 targets and Juju had 11 targets. You're not you don't have your top 2 wide receivers catching that many balls. I think Chase Claypool had 10 targets. You're not catching that many balls without throwing for like 500 yards. Like the old Big Ben, if he was hitting those guys that many times, he'd have like 600 yards. This Big Ben, it was over 300, but they're hitting a lot of those balls are short balls. They're so I was getting kind of hesitant, especially the way Dallas came out against him. Actually made it a game. Like one of the worst teams in the NFL against the 8-0 Steelers at that point. And meanwhile, the Bengals were coming off a bye, and I thought they were kind of trending upward going into that bye. Had played better. Gio Bernard was doing some stuff. And Joe Burrow has played really well for a rookie. For any quarterback in that situation, he's played really well, and he's got some weapons. He's making it work with Tyler Boyd and the rookie T. Higgins. So I thought they were kind of trending up, and lo and behold, they were kind of uncompetitive in that game. They got blown out 36-10. Steelers easily covered. So that was kind of a game I was kind of hedging my bets on, and I shouldn't have. The Steelers kind of I don't know, were wide awake after that hiccup in Dallas or against Dallas. I don't know where that game was. We're wide awake and played a really solid game. So that was comforting. Makes me a lot more comfortable with the Steelers going forward. A few more games. Jaguars, Packers. This is just funny. I mean, the Packers ended up winning in the end, but I took Jaguars plus 13.5 points, making me very happy to see kind of the Packers struggle. Although they ended up getting the win, but definitely put a smile on my face. Some of the struggles the Packers are going through in that game. And I like that, this division, they'll probably still win this division, but they're definitely getting bounced first round of the playoffs if they make it, or when they make it. Chargers, Dolphins. This game was actually kind of disappointing to me. I had kind of cleared my calendar so I could watch this game, and I kind of got bored. Could have been my fault. I mean, ultimately, when I was watching that game, my takeaway was Tua played fine, Herbert played fine. I don't think spectacular. But ultimately, the Dolphins are a better team. When you look at their defense, you look at their special teams, and kind of how they have their offense constructed, it's just top to bottom a better roster than the Chargers have. I mean, the Chargers have Herbert, who's played really well. They got a lackluster kind of running attack. Fine, their offensive line is not special. Their defense is kind of underperformed as of late, and they got Keenan Allen, they got Mike Williams, but that's kind of it. I don't know. I don't think they're particularly well coached either. So, and a point on this is it was a bummer. In Tua's first week, they had a defensive touchdown, a special teams touchdown. I think this week they had a defensive or a special teams touchdown as well. And I kind of wanted to discredit. It's tough to evaluate Tua when he's kind of getting that help to win games, if that makes sense. But from a point spread perspective, you can't just chalk those things up as luck, because we've seen it a few times now, and when it happens, when it's repeatable, it's kind of a pattern. And I think that is just a reflection of, God, why do I always forget his name? The Dolphins coach. Brian Flores. I think it is more Patriots. A lot of Patriots staff jumped ship to Brian Flores when he left that organization, and I think he's just got a good staff going, a well-constructed team, and from top to bottom in all three phases, they seem to be really solid. And you can't just chalk that up to luck. I think some of that is the doing of Brian Flores and what he has going. Raiders Broncos. I liked this game. I ended up betting on it because the points, it opened at -5 Raiders, and then slowly some money came in on the Broncos, so I ended up taking Raiders and blew them up. Broncos are just not doing anything well, and I'll get to that when I start talking about my bets. And then lastly, this is the kind of icing on the cake. I don't know what you want to say. The turd in the turd sandwich. I was having a fine week. The Browns kind of hiccuped me, but I didn't have a lot of money bet on those games, but I had one tier 1 bet. I had one tier 1 bet that I felt very confident in going into Monday Night Football. Ravens, Patriots. Ravens were -7. Patriots suck. And then a monsoon happened. We got shitty football. Lamar Jackson can't throw. We knew that, but the rest of the Ravens roster couldn't kind of pick him up. It was terrible. And watching the end of that game, it was so awful to watch them not even try on that last drive. It was a one-score game. They were only down 4 points. And I understand it was raining. And yeah, I wasn't there. I wasn't standing on the field. But, I mean, the entire fourth quarter, when they were still in the game, Lamar Jackson is, pouting on the bench in his coat, not talking to his coaches. No one's not, his wide receivers, teammates aren't talking to him. Just seemed like the whole team had given up. And then on that final drive, they, throw it a few times and they pump the ball away. What? I just didn't understand it. I think I look at a few other teams and just their personnel and the character of their quarterbacks, and I just don't think they would have given up. And I don't know, I think if you look at, let's say, the Steelers, I think Big Ben would have been on the field and he would have been trying, he would have tried his hardest till the end. Joe Burrow, I think he would have tried his hardest till the end. You wouldn't have seen that same kind of quit. And Wentz, I mean, as shitty as the Eagles have been and the way Wentz has played, he's a competitor, and he definitely would have been out there trying to win the game. And I just was kind of, I don't know how you feel as how Ravens fans feel about that, but that was tough to see. I don't know. I didn't like that at all. All right, jumping into week 11. So yeah, that bet blew up in my face. Ended up finishing about even, but if that would have went through, I would have been up like significant amount. Would have made my week. But what can you do? Moving on to week 11. So I have two tier 1 bets this week. First one, Miami at Broncos. As I just finished saying, as I finish, seeing the praises of Brian Flores and briefly mentioning how the Broncos can't do anything right. Miami is going into Mile High, and they are minus 3-point favorites. And it seems to be that's where the money's coming in. And like I said, Miami, solid team in all three phases. They have an elite cornerback duo with Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, leading up a very solid defense that I think is going to give Drew Lock, who's been struggling through 4 interceptions last week. They're going to give him some trouble, especially like the weapons he has there, kind of unproven, Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick. And I think their offense is capable. Like they don't have a ton of star talent, the Dolphins offense, but they have, Devontae Parker's pretty good. Tua, exciting, I guess. And then they got some fill-in running back, Salvon Ahmed, and he played really well last week, and I feel fine about them getting some stuff done on the ground. And the Broncos, it's not just Drew Lock. Their defense played pretty well early in the season, and now they're not, that defense cannot be found. I know they've been banged up with injuries, but I don't know. The Broncos are looking pretty trash right now. Melvin Gordon sucks. So I'm going to take Miami minus 3 points and feel pretty comfortable about it because I just think Miami outclasses the Broncos in a lot of different facets. Jets at Chargers. This is the other one I got. So the Chargers are a 2-7 team. The Jets are an 0-9 team. Could be 0-10 because they're on. They just had a bye, so I think they're 0-9. Anyway, I shouldn't have to talk too much about this. Chargers are minus 8.5-point favorites. I don't think the Chargers are all that good. I mean, their running game is pretty lackluster, but the Jets are worse. I think Chargers and Justin Herbert, he's going to be able to get another win under his belt, beat up on the Jets. Is it Joe Flacco starting? Is it Sam Darnold flacking? Who knows? Who cares? I don't really like them to get much going against the Chargers. So I'll take the Chargers minus 8.5. Tier 2 bets. All right, so these are just to recap or just to remind you guys. Tier 1 bets, those are the bets I feel really good about. I'm putting more money on those bets. I feel fine recommending them to friends. Tier 2 bets, these are bets that I like enough that I'm taking a side, and I'm going to have some wagers on them, but it might just be because, I have an angle, but I can kind of see it go either way. I'm just not as confident in these for whatever reason. I try to call out those reasons as I go. But anyway, Cardinals at Seahawks. So right now the Seahawks are minus 3-point favorites. This is Thursday Night Football. This game's happening to probably day of when it's Tuesday today. I'm recording this on Tuesday. I'm going to upload it Wednesday. So tomorrow for anyone watching, day comes out. Anyway, Thursday Night Football. The Seahawks are kind of in free fall right now. Russell Wilson doing his best to torpedo his MVP campaign by throwing turning the ball over 6-7 times in the last couple games. And I just think the Cardinals are a better team. I think the Cardinals beat them last time they faced off. And they've just been really solid. DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Kyler Murray on the ground. Decent, contributions from Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake. So, that's on the offense. I do think something to watch is the Cardinals lost a couple key starters on defense in this last game, and it's a short week. So you got to kind of keep that in the back of your head. That's one of the reasons it's a tier 2 bet. Another reason it's a tier 2 bet is Lockett has a knee issue, but they're expecting him to play at this point. And DK Metcalf is a monster, obviously, and he's been quiet for a few games. And I don't really think, Patrick Peterson not from what I watch, but from what I hear, Patrick Peterson is not Patrick Peterson he used to be. And I just don't like the way that Cardinals defense matches up against those wide receivers. So that's why it's a tier 2 bet. But I'll take the Cardinals plus 3 points, because I think they're a better team already, and you're going to give me the 3 points, so I'll take that side of it. But DK Metcalf, he might have his plans of his own. So I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not going to go crazy betting against Russell Wilson and DK. Another game in my tier 2 category, Falcons Saints. So Drew Brees is not going to play this week. I should turn that off. Sorry about that. I realized the fan was going. Hopefully that wasn't too annoying or wasn't getting picked up on the audio. Anyway, so Falcons Saints. Drew Brees is hurt, not going to play. Ribs all busted up from being an old man playing football. But Jameis Winston, as troubled as Jameis has been, I think, Sean Payton is going to have a plan. They were able to win quite a few games with Teddy Bridgewater. Jameis is probably not as good of a decision maker as Jameis Winston is not as good of a decision maker as Teddy Bridgewater, but I think it's going to be fun to see Jameis play again. Has been exciting to watch. He got LASIK in the offseason, so maybe he's going to see the colors a little bit better. It's pretty easy to tell the difference between black and gold and red and white. I don't know what colors they're going to wear in this game, but it's Falcons Saints. Jameis should be able to identify his own players and not turn the ball over too many times, and I just think it's going to be fun to take that side of it. So I'm on the Saints -5. And the Saints have done enough things right to win quite a few games, even if it hasn't been all that exciting at times, and Drew Brees has kind of been a check down champion. They still got Kamara. Michael Thomas is back. I actually kind of like Jameis to take a few more deep shots. Hopefully Sean Payton dials that up and lets the reins off a little bit of Jameis, because if you want to win, I don't think it's a good idea to try to make him into Drew Brees. You're better off just embracing Jameis and letting him use some of those weapons. And the Falcons are just not that good. I think Calvin Ridley just resumed running today, is what I saw. I severely doubt he's going to play this week. So it's really just like, can Julio Jones beat you? And I'll take the Saints as just a better team, more well-rounded, and have some fun betting on Jameis -5. But yeah, that's why it's a tier 2. I don't think you should have that much confidence in someone taking over, versus starting, being the starter and going through camp and going through the season. You're dropping him in the middle of the season. He's going to be cold. He's going to be a little rusty. So I don't have a ton of confidence in that. Patriots at Texans. God, I struggle with this one a little bit, but Texans are so bad. And I think what's bad about the Texans plays into the Patriots' hands. So the Texans, they just have a really bad defense, and the Patriots, especially against the run. And the Patriots, that's what they can do, is they can run the ball actually pretty well. With Rex Burkhead and Damian Harris. Damian Harris is running for like 6 yards a carry or something like that. He's not going to get in the end zone because Cam Newton, they're going to take those. But Cam Newton runs too. So I just think the Patriots are going to be able to run the ball really well on this Texans defense. The Texans have just struggled, even on the offense. And I like the Patriots, kind of tough defense. It's been absent at times, showed up at other times, but I think the Patriots defense is going to be plenty to give the Texans trouble if they just had trouble with the Browns this last week. And so I'd like that angle, and I like Bill Belichick against the interim coach. I think you got to take Bill in that scenario to be able to out scheme. So I'll take the Patriots -2. But it's tier 1 because the Patriots are a pretty god-awful team. But hey, they beat the Ravens last week. Tier 2 continued. I got Packers at Colts. Right now the Colts are -2.5 point favorites. And I'll take the Colts. I mean, I like cheering against the Packers. The Packers have struggled the last couple games. And I like the way the Colts match up against this team. The Colts, their offense has been seeing some life. Phil Rivers has been playing a bit better lately. Had a 300-yard game or two. Michael Pittman returning to the offense was much needed. As much as Colts fans and people want to rag on Phil Rivers for kind of struggling the first half of the season with the Colts, he hasn't had that much help. I mean, the run game has been pretty lackluster, despite as excited people were about Jonathan Taylor. Run game has not been great. They're like 20th in the NFL on the ground. And who's he throwing to exactly? He's got like tight ends you've never really heard of. I mean, Trey Burton just got back, but Mo Alley Cox, come on. T.Y. Hilton is not good anymore, which is a bummer. And who else has he got? Zach Pascal. So, the return of Michael Pittman, I think, is big. And, Nyheim Hines taking a step up. And I think, Phil can hit him with some dump-offs. And we've seen signs of life from that run game lately. And I think that's part of what matches up really well against the Packers is the Packers defense is playing really poorly. And you have the Colts who've been trying to run the ball with mixed success, and now you get a cake matchup for that to happen. So Packers defense, they're not getting they're playing super poorly. I think Jair, they've got some secondary injury issues. Jair Alexander, I think, might not play. So now you have a stud offensive line with the Colts, a defense that can't get pressure, can't stop the run. I think Nyheim Hines, Jordan Wilkins, they're going to get in there. They're going to get some yards on the ground. I think Phil's going to be able to make some plays happen with Michael Pittman and his other weapons. And on the other side of the ball, I think the Colts defense matches up really well with the Packers in that, I think the Colts secondary isn't that good, but their defensive line is stout. And I think bringing pressure on Aaron Rodgers and being able to shut down Aaron Jones in the run game, Devontae Adams is going to catch some balls. He's, but as long as you can survive the 2 touchdowns by Devontae Adams, you can win this ball game. So I'll take the Colts. Just really like the way they match up against this Packers team that's been really struggling. Lost to the Jaguars, barely beat a bad Jaguars team and lost to the Vikings week before at Lambeau. I think both of them might have been at Lambeau. Last game, Steelers at Jaguars. I was kind of hesitant on the Steelers going into this past week, facing the Bengals, and Steelers came through. And now Steelers go to Jaguars, who are a much worse team. This is basically, so it's Steelers -10. Somewhat hesitant with the -10, but ultimately I like that Steelers defense against Jake Luton, against that rookie QB. I think he's going to have a real bad time. I think the Steelers are just going to tear him up. They're going to have Jaguars are going to have a real hard time moving the ball with that Steelers pressure and pass rush. So I'll take the Steelers -10. On the other side of the ball, I don't think Jaguars defense can do anything to stop them. A couple of voids. These games I'm not going to touch. So that finishes my Tier 1, Tier 2. Did the recap earlier. I know this video is getting long, but we're going to call it a short podcast nowadays. So now it can be up to an hour, but it's not going to be, this shouldn't be an hour. It's probably going to be like half. Just some quick avoids. Eagles at Browns. Browns are -3.5 point favorites. That's the side I like. But man, I bet the Browns a couple times lately in games that they won, didn't cover. I took one look at the weather. It's supposed to be rainy in Cleveland, and I'm avoiding that game. I'm just not going to mess around with a bad weather Browns game. Like, I think they should win, but the Eagles are dangerous enough and tough enough on defense. Baker has not played well enough for you to be at any measure of comfort with him. So I'm just going to avoid it. Titans at Ravens. Ravens are -6.5 point favorites. And I probably like the Ravens at -6.5. I'm sort of trying to talk myself into this one, but I think, coming off, I think the Titans are coming off a bye. I don't totally remember. I looked this up. Anyway, I just think, they're coming off the mini bye. That's right. They played on Thursday Night Football, so they've had an extra day or two to get healthy and get ready for this game. Titans have really struggled since losing left tackle Taylor Lewan, and the Ravens defense is really good. And as long as there's not a monsoon going on, they should tear up the Titans. But -6.5 is too rich for a team that quit like they did last week. And I think there's still severe doubts about the Ravens offense and what Lamar can do from the air. So it just wouldn't shock me if the Titans are able to be competitive enough to cover the 6.5. Tannehill, A.J. Brown, they could do things like that. So I'm just not going to touch it unless it moves in, little more favorably. Another game, this game I actually might talk myself into. So I got Bengals at Washington, and right now Washington is minus 1.5 point favorites. And honestly, I like the Washington side. It's hard to say that I'm going to turn away from Burrow against Washington plus 1.5. You're going to give me points. You're going to give me Burrow against NFC East team. But Washington's, I don't think the Bengals match up well against Washington at all. I mean, Washington's got that really tough D-line that I think is going to give Joe Burrow a ton of trouble because his offensive line is so bad. Meanwhile, the Bengals' Swiss cheese defense is got to stop Antonio Gibson and just kind of a lot of key. I mean, the Washington offense isn't good, but it's very grindy. It's like they're going to be able to grind. They're going to be able to put some points on the board, and they're going to be hard to beat at the end of the day. They're going to have Antonio Gibson running the ball. You're going to have Terry McLaurin as a solid wide receiver weapon. Then you got J.D. McKissick, who's running the ball, kind of also playing slot receiver. And he's not super flashy, but I think they're going to be able to chunk yards away and score some field goals, score some touchdowns. And Alex Smith, maybe he'll play a little bit better. So I like the Washington minus 1.5, but I don't know if I like it enough to put money on Washington. I mean, that's just not a game I really have interest in or want to watch. Cowboys at Vikings. So the Vikings should win this game. I mean, obviously, right now the Vikings are minus 7.5 point favorites. And if that came down a point, I think I would put some money on my Vikings. I mean, the problems I see is just that, Dallas came out against the Steelers and actually played pretty well. Andy Dalton is supposed to be back, and I think he's going to play better than last time we saw him. And I think the Vikings although the Vikings defense has played better lately, the personnel do not match up well at all. The weapons on that on the Dallas side are just much better than the young cornerbacks that the Vikings are throwing out. And a lot of no-name guys in the Vikings line. I mean, they've been able to get some pressure, but Dallas's defense is pretty bad. But I just wouldn't be shocked if they're able to break off a few good plays and cover minus 7.5. But on the other side, I think Dalvin Cook is going to feast. I think the way Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins have been playing, they against that weak Dallas defense, they should be unstoppable. So, God, if that could come down half a point or a point, so it's not 7.5, I would probably start hammering the Vikes. But right now, I'm a little hesitant at minus 7.5, just because I'm a Vikes fan and I'm constantly paranoid. And I just always feels like if you're a Vikes fan, you always feel like they're going to blow it. So that's why I need it to be a little more in my favor. Last two games here, I got Chiefs at Raiders. The Chiefs are minus 7.5 point favorites, and I don't get it. I mean, the Raiders have played pretty well. The Raiders beat the Chiefs last time they played. This one is at Raiders, so we're not in Arrowhead this time. Gosh, I might, but the money's starting to come in on the Raiders plus 7. I might take the Raiders plus 7 in a couple parlays and teasers or something, but ultimately Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, Derek Carr hasn't really played that spectacularly. Their wide receiving core, as excited as people were coming into the season, it hasn't been special. So I'm not that crazy about this game. I think it's going to be a fun one to watch. Big division game. Chiefs are going to have something to prove, but I don't know. I'm not that comfortable taking the Chiefs minus 7 because I think the Raiders are a pretty decent team this year. And I'm not that comfortable betting against Patrick Mahomes plus the 7. But if I had to pick a side, I'm still flip-flopping. I don't know. Might take the Raiders in a couple bets. Take the underdog. Rams at Buccaneers. All right, I just can't touch this one. Buccaneers, you just can't trust them. They go from laying an absolute egg against the Saints and then, putting up 40-some this past week against the Panthers. And I'm not gonna stress myself out about messing around with them. Right now, it's Rams at Bucs. Buccaneers are minus 3-point favorites, and I think the Rams are going to struggle quite a bit. against the tough, defensive front that the Buccaneers bring. I think they're going to struggle a lot, especially the Rams. They've been trying to run the ball a lot with Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers. I think that is not going to work very well against this Bucs team. So they're going to have to lean on Goff. They're going to have to lean on Cooper Kupp and how was his name? The other Robert Woods. Some of the other, Josh Reynolds, some of the other wide receivers they got. But on the other side of the ball, you got the Buccaneers offense, who just sometimes they just don't show up, and the offensive line just doesn't. They commit a lot of holding penalties and don't protect Brady very well. And the Rams D, they had Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald. The Rams D is actually pretty solid. So the Rams D might be able to show up in this game, give Brady a lot of trouble. Kind of like how Khalil Mack and the Bears did in that Thursday night football matchup. So don't trust the Bucs. I think the Rams, it's just going to be, I think it's going to end up being an ugly game. But I guess we'll see. And that's what I got for this week. So thanks for hanging in there. Kind of a long one, I'm sure. Check out my Twitter at FavoriteFade on Twitter. And anyway, good luck this weekend.